Hello and welcome to Farmhouse Lilies, where I am recording this voiceover for the third time because someone messed with my audio settings and I didn't figure it out until I had recorded the first one, which had a ton of reverb, and recorded the second one, which I accidentally fixed wrong, so that was my fault. But now I think the audio recording is going to work, so welcome to Farmhouse Lilies. Today we are working on lots of bread and lots of gardening. So this first bread that we're working on is a 100% rye bread, which I'm going to change to maybe like a 1/4% rye because it was just a lot dense. And I don't want my viewers to make a lovely piece of bread and have it be super dense because it was, 100% freshly milled flour. And it probably needed a little extra yeast, but here we are milling flour for a freshly milled flour honey sourdough loaf that I am testing for the blog. And I am testing out this Grandma Eloise's dough enhancer, and I haven't felt like I've noticed a difference in my breads, and maybe it's because I keep changing recipes so often to test out things, and maybe I haven't been consistent enough with one bread recipe to notice that it really actually does make a difference. But right now I haven't noticed a difference in my bread doughs, and so I'm not like super impressed or like super wanting to use it a ton, but I'm going to use it until I am done with it because I bought it, and it's not expensive, but it's money. So here I am. I wanted to show you my farmhouse method of feeding my sourdough starter. And the way that I do it is I visually do a 1:1:1 ratio, and really what I'm looking for is a specific consistency in my sourdough starter. I want it to be thick and a little gloopy, but I don't want it to be too thin, and I don't want it to be like bread dough and too thick. So I'm really kind of looking for that in-between consistency, like thick pancake batter, maybe a little bit thicker, because that is how I feed my sourdough starter. And I have a blog post coming out on how to feed sourdough starter, but really what I'm going for is a consistency rather than an amount. And here we are going to be doing some gardening. We are going to up-plant and up-pot some tomatoes and peppers. And I have some yellow chef tomatoes, some pineapple tomatoes, and a lot of those large slicing tomatoes for going on this year. And the reason I'm doing that is because we have done tons of paste tomatoes in the past. And when we were canning those paste tomatoes, number one, it's a lot of work, and I can just freeze dry them and have the same result for a lot less effort, and I can keep the skins in it. And number two, I just really like these big slicing tomatoes. I really like them fresh, and I really like to cook and bake with them, and so we are going to do a lot more slicing tomatoes than we are paste tomatoes. Now, we are still doing paste tomatoes. I still have 12 plus San Marzano plants going at this point. So that is what we are working on. And the trick to potting tomatoes is to plant them super deep. Plant them up to their leaves, because those stems that are exposed to the dirt will create roots. Those little hairs will turn into roots, and they will have this awesome, super supportive root system if you keep up-potting them that way and plant them in the ground that way. And it kind of makes them look like they're going back in time, and it makes them look really small, but they actually get really strong when you do this. So that is one tip I have for you when you are planting tomatoes, is to plant them up to their leaves when they're super small so that they can have a super great root system. And I have planted them like this for a few years now, but it's been a few days since I potted these, and they're doing really, really great. So we'll actually see later in this video where I up-potted them, or the trays where I up-potted them again, because I'll be watering them again later. But you cannot do this to other plants. For particularly peppers. Peppers hate it and they will die. So tomatoes are really the only thing that I know of so far that you can plant so deep up to their like little leaves and have them be okay. So keep that in mind when you are planting and uppotting your tomatoes, is that you can actually make them stronger by planting them a little bit deeper and creating those really good root systems. So keep that away from the peppers and the squashes and the zucchinis and everything else. But definitely it works really well with the tomatoes. As you can see in here, I also have a ton of little basil leaves sprouting and basil seeds that have gone to germinate, and they are looking great. They're tiny, tiny, tiny right now, but they turn into big, massive plants, and that's what I'm super excited for. I'm really ready to have some big basil plants that I can just pluck off all the leaves and get some good basil for pesto, because that is one of my goals this year, is to have a lot of pesto saved up in the freezer. So I'm super excited for that. And then we've transitioned to cleaning. This is a different day, but I am just appalled at how quickly these white cabinets get dirty. And so I am always constantly wiping them down and wiping the refrigerator down because it's stainless steel, which is great, except for it gets dirty quite quickly. And so this is just a weekly routine that I've gotten into, but I love it because this refrigerator gets so clean and it looks so pretty, honestly. I mean, the things that you enjoy when you're an adult are just not the same that of enjoyment when you're a child. So this is just a big, like, I feel so nice once this refrigerator gets done and cleaned, and it looks just so good. Same thing with these windows. The puppies love to put their little noses on the window glass, and they love to lick their little tongues on the glass and put their footsies on the glass, and it just makes the glass so dirty that every once in a while I just have to come through and just give it a really good wash, and then just hope it lasts for at least a day. That is the hope. But it is really nice to have nice clean windows and glass again, so that's something to do. And then here I am grinding my freshly ground whole wheat and adding some more from the freezer. But really what I'm doing here is I'm prepping ahead of time for some bread that I want to bake that I know I won't have time for later in the day to spend time grinding the wheat. But I have time right then, and so what I'm going to do is grind the wheat and put it in the freezer so that it doesn't lose its nutrients and keeps all of its vitamins and its fats and its oils really happy. So I am grinding the wheat on top of a scale. This is a new trick that I've learned, to grind it on top of a scale so I know exactly when to turn off that mill, so I know exactly how much flour I have. But then I am filling my container with wheat, which I am having to do a lot recently because this little container only holds about 2 to 3 loaves worth of whole white or hard white wheat berries. And you would think I would get a bigger container, but no, it's working for me right now. I just have to fill it a lot, and so that's just what I have to deal with. And then here we are a few days later, so a few days after we uppotted these plants, and I'm just watering them, and you can see how massive those gourds are. I think I mentioned the gourds, or no, I did not mention the gourds in this recording. Okay guys, I've recorded this so often, I don't know what I've talked about and what I haven't talked about. So these gourds are gorgeous and beautiful. They are the only gourds that I've ever had germinate, and I am super impressed. They're birdhouse gourds from True Leaf Market or somewhere like that, and they're doing really well. I'm super impressed because, like I said, I've never had them germinate before, so I'm super excited to have these birdhouse gourds grow, and I want to dry them for crafts, and I'm just super excited for these. But you can see I have a ton of anchos and cayennes that I've up-potted, and there's a couple more that I've up-potted, some big rainbow tomatoes that are up potted, and I have a bunch of anchos that are up potted, but you can't see them in this thing. Those are just the um, extra little seedlings that we have going. So I didn't want to kill them because that would be super sad. So we're trying to keep them all alive. But here are the San Marzanos that I planted like last week that are doing great. The zucchinis, the basil. Sorry, I'm hiccuping, so having a hard time talking. But I'm just going through using my 2 bucket method, which is I fill up a 5-gallon bucket full of water, and then I fill up the 3-gallon bucket with the 5-gallon bucket so that I can easily water my trays. And as we can see, we didn't actually need to add water to this tray, but that's okay. And then we're ending off with some puppies because they are so sweet and they are just, they just want love all the time. So thank you for joining my ramblings again for the 3rd time today. And leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, which I know you really want to see more, where they're not so, the videos aren't so off the cuff usually like this. So this is just kind of a random one, but we'll see you again soon. Bye.